Hi everyone. In this session we are going to discuss about Python for loop. I am Divya from Coding and Technology. First of all, let's see what are loops in Python. Loops are important in Python as they help you to execute a block of code repeatedly. In some situations where you would need to use a piece of code over and over, but you don't want to write the same line of code multiple times. So we need to use loops in Python. Loops in the program are used to iterate over the sequence of elements, which could be a list, tuple, array or string. Water cycle is one of the examples of real-life loop. There are two types of loops in Python. They are for loop and while loop. In this session, we are going to learn about for loop in Python. Next, we will move on to the for loop in Python. The for statement is used to iterate or repeat itself over a range of values or a sequence. That is list, string, tuple, etc. In Python, for loops are referred to as definite iteration, in which the number of repetition is specified explicitly in advance. The syntax of for loop is for control variable in sequence or items in range followed by colon, statements in body of loop, after that else statement followed by colon, then statement. Here control variable that takes a new value from the range when each time loop is executed. This sequence may be a list, string or tuple, and else statement will be executed after all the iteration of for loop. Here else statement is optional. While using for loop in Python, it should always start with for keyword and should end with a colon. And the statements inside the loop should be indented. Python range function. The range function is used to create a sequence of numbers, starts with 0 and ends with 1 less than the stop. That is, the range function executes a group of statements for a specified number of times. The syntax of this range function is range, start, stop, then step. The start and step parameters are optional. By default, it starts from 0 and in every iteration, it is incremented by 1. But we can specify a different increment value by using the step parameter. Range function is mainly used in for loops. Let's illustrate one example of for loop in Python idle. Here I am going to print a word Python 5 times. So this is the program to print Python 5 times. Here I am going to write for I in range 1, 6 followed by colon, print Python. Here I is looping control variable and will be assigned each generated value for which the body of for loop will be executed. In this program, when the for structure begins executing, the range function creates a sequence of values which ranges from 1 to 5. The first value in the sequence assigned to the variable I and the body of the for structure executes. For each subsequent value in the sequence, the value is assigned to a variable I and the body of the for structure executes. This process continues until all values in the sequence have been processed, that is 5 times. Let me run the program. We'll be getting Python as output, that is 5 times. Now let's see another example of for loop in Python. Here I am going to generate a multiplication table of a number 5. For this I am going to write num is equal to 5 for I in range 1, 11 followed by colon, then print statement. Here first num, comma, multiplication symbol, comma, I, comma, then equal symbol, comma, num into I. After that, let me run the program. After the execution, the program has generated the multiplication table of a number 5. In this program, the range function will generate values 1 to 10. And here, with the help of a looping control variable I, the multiplication table has calculated. In this video, we have discussed about Python for loop and its syntax statements. We also illustrated a visual example that expressed how to use for loop code in Python. Thanks for watching.